All right, welcome everybody. I will officially call this meeting of Akron Rotary to order. And I'll wake up all my colleagues here in the C-suite. And now, talk about good causes. I reflect, Kyle, I actually was a big brother in Huntington County. I won't even say the year because when I heard that Laura graduated in the 90s, it was well before the 90s and I was still in college. But it was really one of the most valuable experiences that I got to do for 3 years. So I'm very pleased to have Kyle Putinski with us. He's the executive director of Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Summit, Medina, and Stark County. And he's no stranger to community relations. He was previously the regional director of community engagements for Education Empowerment Group and led significant work on collective impact during his tenures at the United Way in Waynes and Holmes, and worked actively in our United Way here in Summit. So Kyle, we look forward to hearing what you have to say about the important work that you've done, and welcome to Akron Rotary.
Well, first off, thank you all for having me. I hope you all can hear me well. So I am relatively new to Big Brothers and Big Sisters. I took over the reins here as the ED in July. So, taking over the reins in a pandemic of a nonprofit, just check that off the bucket list here. But I am definitely no stranger to work in Summit County. I do believe I recognize some of you from my previous work at United Way, and then through some of the Bridges Out of Poverty workshops that I've led in the past too. So I do recognize some familiar faces, but it is great to be working back in my hometown. So I'm really excited to share with you about the work of Big Brothers and Big Sisters. So I have about a 20-minute presentation, and I'll open it up for some Q&A here. So let's see if I can share my screen here. All right. All right, so Big Brothers and Big Sisters, we have been around in Summit County since 1975. So we've been doing work here with mentoring for a while here. Big Brothers and Big Sisters was formed in the 1900s, so we're one of the longest mentoring organizations in the nation. So Big Brothers and Big Sisters, that is a picture of our Match Monday. So every time we make a match, we try to post it on social media. And that was during our virtual only period for mentoring. So we have our big sister, little sister and big sister up there. And we're really excited for that. But really what I wanted to talk to everyone today was really about like what the youth in COVID-19 and about what is going on. So the way I like to present is I really like to engage the crowd. Sometimes sitting in front of a computer and doing Zoom meetings can get kind of taxing. So, if I talk less and you guys talk more, that would be great. But just really have some opening questions for you to really get our thought process moving. So a couple opening questions is, who made a difference in your life? If you look at your life and, you're kind of at a crossroads, who really was that person that made a difference in your life? And was that a long-term relationship or was that a one and done type meeting? I'm interested to hear from your perspective.
You can volunteer people, Kyle, if you can screen through. I give you permission, and I can be the bad guy.
Okay. Yeah. Is there any volunteers before we just call?
I'll start you off with one, Kyle, since I've kind of had a pedestrian life up until the time that I actually got out of education. But the person that made a difference for me is my pediatrician. I am a pediatrician, but the fact that my pediatrician took care of me with chronic disease. I had asthma as a kid, which in retrospect was probably all due to my parents' secondhand smoke, but that wasn't recognized then. And, he would pull me aside and he said, "Rob, you seem like a good student despite missing so much school. why don't you think about going into medicine? No one in my family had ever gone into medicine. Very few had even graduated college. And I said, okay, I'm going to do that. I interviewed him in the 9th grade, wrote an essay, and he continued to keep in touch until I was out of college and had gotten accepted to med school. So it was kind of fun.
That's great. And so the responses in the chat I'm seeing, you know, we have teachers, we have scout leaders, we have other things there. So I'm assuming that a lot of these individuals, they took an interest in your life, and it really wasn't a one and done meeting. So we know that like change happens through relationships. So very rarely do our lives get changed by like a self-help seminar, a Tony Robbins seminar. Is that person digging into your life month after month, week after week, day after day. And, you know, in the education world, they have a saying that no significant learning happens without significant relationship. And that, at the core, that's what really Big Brothers and Big Sisters does. Like, we are a relationship driven organization, and our vision is that all youth achieve their full potential. So youth and COVID-19, what are we noticing from our youth and COVID-19? And this is a spotlight on a match from big brother Daniel and little brother Devin. And they have been matched since October. They've been meeting virtually for about 4 months now, and we just got the clear to go back to in-person match activities. So all of our matches are, you know, they're masked up, they have hand sanitizer, and they're social distancing with their match activities. But some of the things that we're noticing with youth and COVID-19, just from our agency's perspective, and just from the localized community data and also national data that our national organization is telling us is, you know, we are seeing an increase in depression. We're seeing an increase in anxiety, an increase in isolation. We're also noticing a decrease in calls to children's services. So we're knowing abuse is happening, but it's just not getting reported as often. We're also seeing an increase in trauma and a decrease in academics. And locally here in Summit County, we're also seeing an increase in violence, particularly shooting violence, as well as in Canton. So youth and COVID-19, I mean, the adults, we're having a hard time handling it, but our youth are having a really difficult time right now, especially with the isolation aspects of things. So why mentor right now, or why get involved in mentoring right now? It's because when I go look at these statistics, we know that, you know, mentoring or having a positive adult in kids' lives. And when I talk about mentoring, you know, if you want to volunteer or you want to get involved with Big Brothers and Big Sisters, that's great. But there's also a lot of great mentoring organizations in Summit County. So our organization actually coordinates a Summit County, a mentoring collaborative in Summit County. So we bring all the mentoring organizations together and see how we can work better together. But there's so many great mentoring organizations, and kids are going through it right now. And a lot of these kids, they just don't have that non-judgmental, non-parental caring adult in their lives. And at this time, it can make all the difference. Because we're even seeing youth as young as 1st and 2nd grade have suicidal ideation thoughts, and having that person in their lives that can help them make referrals or just talk through some of these complicated issues can really it's really life-changing, but also life-saving work at this moment. So our mission is really to create one-to-one mentoring relationships that ignite the power and promise of youth. And our vision is that all youth achieve their full potential. And we do this by, you know, having a culture of accountability. So we partner with parents and guardians, volunteers, and other in the community, because we're accountable for each child in our programming. So from our data, we're seeing that youth have higher aspirations, greater confidence, avoidance of risky behaviors, and educational success. I'll share a little bit more about our outcomes later on in the presentation. So what do we do at Big Brothers and Big Sisters? So when you think of Big Brothers and Big Sisters, people typically think about our community-based program. So our community-based program is when you have a big brother age 18 and up. And we don't really have a cutoff for age. So we have, 60, 70, 80-year-old mentors that sign up. So that is our community. So that is on the mentor side. On the mentee side, or the little side, we take ages 6 to 18 for that process. And what individuals do is they form a one-to-one mentoring relationship out in the community. They are interacting face-to-face and just meeting together, working on goals, working on issues that are going on at home, things of that nature. And our average match length for that type of program is about 3.5 years. COVID really bit into our match lengths for that program. In February 2020, it was about 5.5 years, but we did lose a significant amount of matches to our program because of COVID-19 and families moving and bigs moving for other opportunities. This is a picture of one of our community-based program. That is actually a match that moved to Atlanta. The kid lives in Atlanta now, and the big and his wife actually went down to visit them. And when we were doing virtual matching, they wanted the match to keep going on, and they still do Skypes and Zooms and FaceTimes, and they even participate in our virtual events every month. So that's our community-based program. We also do what we call site-based programs, and that's where high school students actually serve as the mentors or as the big brothers, and they mentor middle and elementary schoolers. And on our average match length for that program is about 18.5 months. And we're seeing, increase in academics, increase in attendance, and just, pretty great outcomes for that. We also have a program called Bigs in Blue. Bigs in Blue is where law enforcement officers serve as a big to littles in the community. And what our national data is showing is that the law enforcement officers are actually more impacted than the littles, because they actually, it reframes the frame of mind about, the neighborhood and all the complex problems that these kids are coming through. And that's a program that's brand new to us here. We have a federal grant, a federal juvenile justice grant to administer that. We also offer other community trainings. So we offer a training called Stack the Deck. It is a interactive poverty simulation utilizing playing cards, where we look at the key events in a youth's life from age 0 to 18. And we contrast, a kid that grew up in generational poverty to a kid that grew up in middle class. And we just kind of go through a couple different environments and seeing how the deck is stacked against these kids that grew up in poverty. And so I just recently conducted that training to the entire school district of Copley-Farallon City Schools. And they really got out, it's a 45-minute training, and they've really got a lot out of it, just kind of reshape those preconceived notions of what kids are going through. And that training is offered free of charge to anyone in the community, because our goal is really to create that poverty-informed community here locally. So when we talk about being a big, what does that look like? So if you want to be a mentor, if you want to be a big brother, what does that look like? So there is a time commitment that we ask. So we ask for a 1-year time commitment for all of our volunteer mentors. And the reason being is because we've been doing this for 100 years as an organization, and we're noticing that change takes time, relationships take time. So that 1-year commitment is pretty standard on trying to make the best outcomes and indicators possible for our littles. Our age limit is 18 and up. And, we do have some guidelines that you touch base with your little no more than once a week, but a minimum of 2 times a month. Because after you meet them more than once a week, that kind of gets out of that mentor relationship and more of a friend relationship. And we really want to focus on that mentor relationship. And then the only other requirement is we do ask that you have an in-person background check. 100% of our onboarding and activities are virtual, but that is the only thing. If you want to be a big brother or big sister to our organization, we do require an in-person background check. So the enrollment process, it's pretty straightforward, but you basically, if you want to become a big, you inquire online at our website. It's mentorwithme.org. The application is very lengthy, and it has to be on purpose, because anytime you match a youth with a kid in the community, there's child safety concerns. So we have 100 years of data to back up our best practices here. So that is why the application is lengthy. And the other reason why it's lengthy is because we want to make the best match relationship possible. So we want to know your strengths. We want to know your passions and what you like to do, so we can match you up with a little that likes to do the same things. Currently, we have 130 kids on our wait list, waiting for mentors. So we want to make sure that if we do match a kid with a mentor, that match is going to be a long-term match. Just recently, I was interacting with one of the managers at a restaurant that I went to, and I had my big brothers and big sisters mask on, and they asked me what I did with the organization. I told them, and she divulged that she was a little sister when she was younger, and she was in her about 60s, and she was saying that she still meets with her big sister to this day. So she was in her 60s, her big sister was in her 80s, and they just went to her mom's 100th birthday. So that's what those are the types of relationships that we encourage at Big Brothers and Big Sisters, is really those lifelong mentoring relationships. So after you apply, we do check references. So we ask for 3 references that we go through. Then we'll do a background check, which is a federal and BCI background check, as well as the DMV social media check, local sheriff's check, and also a check with our national organization for youth safety. After you go through that, there is a interview. It takes about an hour and a half to go through, where you meet with our staff, and then you get matched with your little brother or little sister. So some of our outcomes at our organization, 70 to 75% will increase their feelings of social acceptance. We also have an increase in educational expectations. 80 to 90% will improve their GPA. 90 to 100% will improve attitudes towards risky behaviors. There also was another study done on mentoring and youth violence, particularly gun violence, and they say that mentoring is one of the evidence-based best practices to combat that. But the issue is it does take time. It does take time, and I know like the things in Summit and Stark County, there's a lot of youth violence going on. But mentoring, whether it's with Big Brothers or Big Sisters or South Akron Youth Mentorship or I Care Mentoring or all these other, or the Y, there's so many great mentoring organizations that have similar outcomes. So if you don't want to mentor with us, or if you have a friend that's interested in that, please reach out to any of these great mentoring organizations in Akron, because there's so many kids that need this right now. We could be at capacity and we'll still have kids that need our help. So it really takes all of our mentoring organizations to work together to really see these needles move here locally in Summit County. So we also see that 50 to 60% will improve truancy rates. And then there's some other indicators down there at the bottom, like 46% are less likely to use illegal drugs and alcohol. And those are all based off of our data that we collect. So we do a baseline, and every 6 months we collect data from our bigs and littles. So I do want to just So here are some ways to get involved in our organization. If you do want to get involved, you can become a community-based BIG. We are looking for mentors right now. We also are looking for Bigs and Blue or law enforcement officers to partner with. If you are passionate about mentoring or working with youth, we do have an opportunity to serve on a community-based advisory council. Then we also offer some other different matching options. So if you want to serve with maybe your spouse, we do a thing called couples matches, where you can serve with your spouse and be a big brother and little big sister to a youth in the community. Our goal as an organization for 2021 is to really double our matches. Because we know that kids are really going through it right now, and there's so many kids that need our help. So our goal for 2021 is to double our match size, which we're well on our way to accomplishing. But really, like, our end goal is to really have 500 matches by 2025. And I think that would really just be, putting a good dent into, the kids that need mentoring right now, but there's so many kids that need it. If we have 500 matches in our 3 counties, there's still going to be more kids that need it. So anytime I'm out speaking to the community, I always like to talk about our, other great mentoring organizations out there. So I do want to give some time. Big Brothers and Big Sisters started in Akron in 1975. That's when we started here locally. And then in the 90s, we actually merged with the Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Canton. And then in the early 2000s, we merged with the Medina Big Brothers and Big Sisters, and we became this tri-county mentoring program. Is there Big Brother specific type training? Yes, there is Big Brother specific type training. We go through trauma-informed care. We also do trainings with Bridges Out of Poverty, and Stack the Deck training. And we also do effective mentoring training in terms of like LGBTQ youth. We also do training about youth in foster care and things like that. So our national organization puts out training on a consistent basis that we go through. So I am running short on time. I know we end at 1, so I do want to open it up for questions.
Well, thanks, Kyle. This is Doug. As the questions come in, you've been answering them on the chat. So I was wondering if you could share with the group too the primary funding sources, revenue sources for Big Sisters. What's your business model, and how do you operate? What do you need from the various forms of revenue you receive?
Sure. So we get some of our revenue through the charity pull tab program or charity lottery program in Ohio. That's one source of revenue. We also get it through federal and local grants through the Ohio Jobs and Family Services, as well as the the federal juvenile justice grant. We also receive funding from local foundations such as the Akron Community Foundation and the Huntington Foundation and some other local foundations. Then we also have an individual giving where we get individual donations from our supporters. And I know another person asked me, where do we get our referrals from? We get a lot of referrals from not only the schools, we get them from Children's Services, we get them from the wraparound councils in Summit and Stark County. And then honestly, we get referrals just through our website and individuals calling. So right now we're getting about 5 to, depending on the week, 5 to 10 littles that want to get into our program. But we're also getting a great, the community's been incredibly kind to us, is we're getting about, 2/3 of that in mentors as well. So our staff is, we're just trying to work through these capacity issues and get people matched as quickly as possible because the kids need it right now.
Kyle, do you have any, you mentioned your goal was to create 500 matches.
Mm-hmm.
what's the need?
So the need for, are you talking about what is the need for mentors, right? Or what is the actual need for littles right now, or mentees?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it may only be an estimate at this point. You can't possibly know all.
Yeah, I can tell right now that I can't get really great data on that, because a lot of the services that are the mentoring services that we have locally are specific to like the Akron area. But I do know at the fringes of, Summit County, a lot of children they don't have access to a mentor. So I can't give you a clear number on that. But that's a great question. That's a great, I'll follow up with you, Doug, on
But
that.
it's far from capacity though. 500 matches would make a dent, but there's a lot of need out there, isn't there?
Yes. Yeah, there's a lot of need, and at this time, with a lot of mentoring organizations, we are virtual. So for 1 to 4 hours a month of your time, that you can really change a kid's family tree generational.
There's a comment on the chat, if you're reading along with me, Doug Houseconneck mentioned that your organization has some roots through the JCs. I think that's pretty interesting. He posted a link to a Beacon Journal archives, I would imagine. And
Thank you for sharing that.
some information there. That's pretty cool. Thanks, Doug. Any other questions that people might have? Either type them in chat or go ahead and unmute yourself and ask away.
Kyle, we try to stay online for about 10 to 15 minutes, especially for folks that have additional questions or just are feeling like the pandemic is not conducive to mixing. So we do stay on. If your schedule allows, you're more than welcome to stay on. But I'd really like to thank you for participating with our meeting today. It seems to generate a lot of questions, and hopefully some volunteers, if not to be a mentee, but maybe to get involved in your board, as I saw that on your list as well. So thank you. And if you can hang on, I'll adjourn the meeting. Just to remind people, we talked about the district conference, and I know Dr. Doug wanted to know when the happy hour is, and I understand that's Friday evening, 4/23 from 6:30 to 8:30. There's a fun radio show with music, keynote speaker, trivia, and it's BYOB, Doug. So just make a note for that, Dr. Doug. This week, birthdays before we reconvene next week is Jonna Economou on the 25th and Pat Weiner on 3/30. Joint anniversary, Scott Manby will have been a Rotarian for 8 years. Bill Manby Sr. for 48 years. John Morse, 3 years, and Connor Jarvis, 4 years. So congratulations, happy joint anniversary. Next week's speaker will be our very own Steve Bowie, as he's going to tell us about an educational not-for-profit that he's created and stood up that may be able to align with some of our strategic planning activities. I am actually playing doctor next week, so Pat O'Neill will step back from his past president role and run our meeting, and I will try to join when I finish harassing the pediatric residents on the inpatient team. If it's not too busy, I'll join the meeting, but I will be I will not be the moderator. So again, thank you, everybody. Any other final comments or questions before I adjourn the meeting? All right, well, there's the bell, and we are adjourned.